I liked it better than X-Men Last Stand, if that's what you were wondering. Hey everyone, it's Jeremy here. I love watching movies, love talking movies, so I just thought about, making my first review on this channel, and we'll start it with a very, I was going to say interesting movie, but hang on, but we're going to start with an X-Men movie, if anything. I don't know if it's good. Well, I know if it's interesting. I'm going to let you know my thoughts on this movie. I'd love to talk with you about it. I'll try not to spoil the movie at all, as best as I can, without giving anything away. I'll talk about it, give you my thoughts, try not to spoil anything, so you guys can check it out if you want, and let me know in the comments below if you liked it, if you didn't like it, all that stuff. So here we go, Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix is what it looks like to be the last X-Men movie. I guess New Mutants still coming out later this year. But this is technically, at least in my mind, this is the last X-Men Fox movie that we're gonna get with this cast and all that stuff. It's directed by Simon Kinberg, and we have some of the cast returning. James McAvoy as Charles Xavier, Michael Fassbender as Magneto, and we have new cast members like Jessica Chastain as a new character. So we'll talk about all that stuff. So X-Men Dark Phoenix. Do I call it X-Men Dark Phoenix or just Dark Phoenix? Because they left out the X-Men in this, even though when they started promoting the movie, they actually said X-Men, but whatever. It's kind of like another telling of the Dark Phoenix story of Jean Grey and how she gets these new powers, I should say. And it all comes to a head against the X-Men and the new Dark Phoenix. So this is the second time they've done it. Like I said earlier, they made a movie called X-Men The Last Stand, co-written by Simon Kinberg. So let's start with the things I did like about the movie. I really like the cast of the X-Men Fox franchise, especially starting with X-Men First Class, which is, I want to say, probably my favorite X-Men movie. The cast that they have established since X-Men First Class has always been great. I always thought James McAvoy was excellent as Charles Xavier, especially my personal favorite, Magneto, or Michael Fassbender as Magneto. And everyone is great with what they're given in this movie. But what they're given is very cliche and very bland, I would say. I also like Sophie Turner as Jean Grey and Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, since they debuted in the last movie, X-Men Apocalypse. I did like them here, and they have more stuff to do here, I feel like, than the last movie. They kind of write Professor X as a bit of an asshole in this one. And I like that they showed a different side of the character. Like, he's not just the wise and noble professor this time. And I found that a little bit refreshing. But even then, they didn't dive too deep into it. It felt very surface level. So that's one of the things I like. Another thing I liked was I like Cyclops. I've always been a fan of Cyclops. He got the short end of the stick in the original trilogy. In X-Men The Last Stand, they basically wrote him off 2 scenes or 10 minutes into the movie, killed by Jean Grey and all that stuff. I enjoyed that he got more to do in this movie. That's just me. I like Cyclops, and I was glad that he had more to do in this movie. So I was happy to see that. The action scenes were well done, especially the train sequence in the third act. Which is crazy because that was technically part of the infamous reshoots of the movie. But I actually thought that was one of the more stronger action sequences of the movie. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah, the action isn't bad. There were some shaky cam stuff that was but for the most part, all the action was pretty cohesive. Another thing I was impressed by was the CGI. I could not tell when they were using CGI and when they weren't using CGI, except for maybe one shot. They kind of showed it in the trailer where Magneto uses a bunch of guns. And in the trailer, it looked really cool, and I was like, I can't wait for that shot. But when it came in the movie, it lingered on those guns. Those guns looked fake as hell. So yeah, but other than that, I really enjoyed the action portion of the movie. The last thing I liked wasn't something I was really expecting, and it was, you hear the music, and I was wondering, man, I can't, this is pretty good. The music's pretty good. I'll probably check it out. Hopefully it's on Spotify afterwards. I'll check it out, and at the end credit scene, I'll see who made it and all that stuff. And when the end credits came, it said music by Hans Zimmer. So I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense now. The music was good. Not. I don't think it will blow everyone's mind away, but I enjoyed it. So, and it's Hans Zimmer, so I'm putting it as a plus. All right, let's get to the things I didn't like. The writing in the movie is the weakest part of the movie for sure. A lot of the dialogue was very cliche, like you knew it was coming. Some of it just didn't sound right. I thought the first act of the movie was pretty good, leading up to Jean encountering her Phoenix powers. But once it gets to the second act of the movie, it really doesn't know what it wants to do. We travel from like location to location, kind of doing the same thing over and over again. It felt like the plot didn't know where it wanted to go and how to tell an interesting story, which is weird because the pieces are there. But the story is so half-baked, it didn't know where to go until the third act. I felt like the whole second act was this bland setup where it should be basically creating this epic climax of the movie. It kind of just limps along in the middle of the movie until we finally get to the third act, and it's like, oh, okay, it kind of saves itself, kind of. The third act of the movie, heavily depends on the setup of the second. The weight of the movie is usually established in the second act and paid off during the third, and that's definitely not what happened. It really falls in the second act. I don't want to give too much away, but the middle of the movie, I just thought, where are we going with this? And can we keep going, please? Another thing I didn't like about the movie, I felt like they wasted Jessica Chastain. Jessica Chastain's a great actress, but the character that she plays is just written so robotic. I felt like anyone could have really played her character. The character's just not good. The villain, not memorable. She was wasted in the movie. She could have brought more to the character if it was written better, but it wasn't. So I don't know if it's because of the reshoots, but another thing I didn't like, I mentioned that I really like Michael Fassbender as Magneto, but man, they give him nothing to do in this movie. Just redoing the same thing that Magneto's done since since X-Men First Class, I guess. They keep reusing the same storyline for him over and over again, and he was definitely wasted in the movie. I wanted to see more of him. They could have written something better for him for sure, because I thought he really stole the show in X-Men First Class, but he's really given nothing to do in this movie rather than just to fight Jean, I guess. I don't know. Dark Phoenix also doesn't really take any risks in its story, which I feel like maybe due to the reshoots. I'm not sure. I read articles about the story being similar to Captain America Civil War or Captain Marvel, and I can see some of those elements in Dark Phoenix, but they're half baked in there, and by the end of the movie they don't really pay off in any big way. So they play off the story elements very safe. considering it is the last movie, I really don't feel like it was a definitive ending to the Fox X-Men franchise. So I left the movie not regretting that I watched it, but like I said, I wish it had a more definitive ending. You know, these movies have been going on for almost 20 years now, and for it to end on the note that Dark Phoenix did, it's just a little disappointing when you have high notes of Logan, Days of Future Past, X-Men First Class. You know they can make him a good movie, so it's just kind of disappointing that they ended it with Dark Phoenix the way it did. So the grade I'm going to give X-Men Dark Phoenix is a D+. So I didn't regret watching it. Like I said, you'll probably check it out if on like Netflix or HBO or whatever, some streaming service when it gets to Blu-ray, DVD. But if you already lost interest in the X-Men franchise, I don't think you need to check this out. It's not going to blow your mind away. But if you have been following this franchise, and I had a fairly good time. It didn't make me mad. The movie didn't make me mad, but it made me sad in a way that it could have been better. Yeah, X-Men Dark Phoenix, it made me sad, but I didn't get mad. I came up with that on the spot right now, and I'm telling you, I shouldn't have said that. So I hope you guys found my review informative. So comment down below. Also tell me what's your favorite X-Men movie? Mine was X-Men First Class. Maybe Logan if you don't count it as it, but if you don't count it as an X-Men movie, then I would say X-Men First Class. So X-Men First Class. So until next time, guys, I'll see you later.